an 180-page letter that he said would explain his motives. You've probably heard this document described as a racist manifesto. But that's not quite right.
What a great honor to be able to introduce for the first time ever.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Jazz Roganzo here. Another episode of What's Next. Of course, as always, your daily dose for common sense and facts. Well, after the tragedies of this past weekend, from the Taiwanese church service in California to the horrific tragedies at a Tops supermarket in Buffalo, which of course led to the deaths of 10 people by one mentally deranged and racist person. Sally, we're going to have to go to the one place. Oh, did I forget Philadelphia, Baltimore, Chirac? You know, the typical suspects, which made up for a lot of shootings and sadly a lot of death. But, as I was just about to say, we are going to go to a place where I kind of don't like to go only because of the stench. Let's take a look. This comes out of Breitbart. MSNBC's Reid, FNC's Carlson injects racist conspiracy theory into the veins of GOP voters. MSNBC's anchor, Joyless Reid, on Monday during her show, The No One Watches The Readout, accused Fox News' Tucker Carlson of injecting racist conspiracy theory into the veins of Republican voters. Discussing replacement theory, Reid said, "No singular voice in the right wing has done more to elevate this conspiracy theory than Tucker, who, even with a new head writer, spends night after night injecting the rot of the dregs of the internet directly into the veins of Republican voters." She continued, "Are Tucker's writers sourcing his show from 4chan? Does anybody mention 4chan anymore? No. These are just questions. As the New York Times Alice last month found that in more than 400 episodes, Tuckums has amplified the idea of cabal elites want to force demographic change through immigration. That is replacement theory." No, sweetie, that's just trying to find something that's not there. But then again, that's what you guys do best. And of course, I did a video regarding that New York Times hard-hitting piece. Unfortunately, people with way too much on their hands to watch episode after episode of Tucker trying to find shit that's not there. Read at it. The reality is Tucker is not some deep thinker. He's clearly just channeling the gross stuff viewers can easily find online, then feeding it into Republican voters and Republican politicians as infotainment. And that feedback loop has a terrifying reach. That murderous lowlife in Buffalo wouldn't even have to listen to Tucker. He wouldn't even have to watch him at all if they're essentially pulling from the same source material. But let's hear it from the wonderful Joy Reid herself.
Good evening, everyone. We begin the readout tonight with the mainstreaming of racist hate. Now, I'd like to refresh your memory about something that happened a couple of years ago. You may remember this. The top writer for Tucker Carlson's show on Fox News resigned after being exposed for posting racist and sexist messages for years under a pseudonym in an online forum popular with law students. He portrayed Black Americans as lazy and criminals, made derogatory comments about Asian Americans, used homophobic slurs. Now,
of course, he denounced it. Tucker denounced it.
Like the kind of filth that you would most certainly encounter in the bowels of the interwebs, places like 4chan, where the racist domestic terrorist who drove 200 miles to a grocery store in a predominantly Black neighborhood in Buffalo to slaughter Black people says that he was radicalized while he was sitting at home bored during the pandemic.
In Buffalo, and shot more than a dozen strangers with a rifle. No doubt you've seen accounts of this on the news. What you probably haven't seen are details about any of the 10 Americans who were murdered in that store in Buffalo. You may not even know their names, much less who they were or who they loved. Most of them were Black. We know that. But beyond the way they look, not a lot has been reported about them, because the coverage hasn't been about them. Nor, in fact, has it really been about the gunman. He was an 18-year-old called Peyton Gendron. Gendron was mentally ill. Everyone around him knew that, including his teachers and the local police. Less than a year ago, Gendron was committed to a mental hospital after threatening to murder his classmates at a school graduation ceremony. So on Saturday, after he made good on his long-standing threat to open fire into a crowd, Gendron left an 180-page letter that he said would explain his motives. You've probably heard this document described as a racist manifesto. But that's not quite right. It's definitely racist, bitterly so. Gendron reduces people to their skin color. That's the essence of racism, and it's immoral. But what he wrote does not add up to a manifesto. It is not a blueprint for a new extremist political movement, much less the potential inspiration for a racist revolution. Anyone who claims that it is lying or hasn't read it. Instead, Gendron's letter is a rambling pastiche of slogans and internet memes, some of which flatly contradict one another. The document is not recognizably left-wing or right-wing. It's not really political at all. The document is crazy. It's the product of a diseased and organized mind. At one point, Gendron suggests that Fox News is part of some global conspiracy against him. He writes like the mental patient he is, disjointed, irrational, paranoid. Now, that's true, not that it makes the atrocities he committed easier to bear. If your daughter was murdered on Saturday in Buffalo, you wouldn't care why the killer did it or who he voted for. But the truth about Peyton Gendron does tell you a lot about the ruthlessness and dishonesty of our political leadership. Within minutes of Saturday's shooting, before all of the bodies of those 10 murdered Americans had even been identified by their loved ones, professional Democrats had begun a coordinated campaign to blame those murders on their political opponents. They did it, they said, immediately. Patron Gendron was the heir to Donald Trump, they told us. Trumpism committed mass murder in Buffalo. And for that reason, it followed logically, we must suspend the First Amendment. That's hardly an exaggeration of what they're saying. Here's a selection from yesterday's Sunday shows.
Social media companies and law enforcement have not done enough to monitor, to ban, to restrict, and to limit hate speech on their sites. Hate speech is not freedom of speech.
As you know, the First Amendment does not protect hate speech.
I'll protect the First Amendment any day of the week, but you don't protect hate speech. You don't protect incendiary speech. You're not allowed to scream fire in a crowded theater. There are limitations on speech, and right now we have seen this run rampant.
And it just turns out that, Joy, remember those racist tweets that came out of your account? But of course, you said I didn't do it. Someone hacked into my account and tweeted these racist comments, which of course has never been truly verified. But regarding this, she does blame Tucker to a degree in Buffalo's horrific shooting. Now, it turned out this so-called manifesto that this Buffalo shooter left was a warped and all over the place wording of jibber jabber. Yes, there were some seriously heinous and racist comments strewed throughout the quote manifesto. But from what I'm hearing regarding it, a lot of people didn't read into it. All they saw was Fox News, Tucker Carlson. Well, of course, Fox News was blamed. There is a segment of the manifesto that has Fox News mentioned in it. But, of course, that's all the left is going to concentrate on, that it is a racist manifesto. And, of course, Fox News was the perpetrator. But that's what they do. But when it comes to Joy Reid, who nobody watches, except the 5 people, including her family members, again, when you see everything through a racist prism, gosh, woman, can't you just step outside the box just once? Can you step outside the box once and actually read something with an open mind and then come to a conclusion that sounds coherent? But then again, she won't be Joy Reid, would she? And with that being said, I'm Jasper Gonzo. This is What's Next. Want to see more just like this? Please leave a comment below. Like it, share it, subscribe to it. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.